Hi again. In this episode, we are going to talk about how to not run out of money, especially in retirement, because you're going to learn about the three biggest dangers that cause people to outlive their money. And if this is the concern that you have, you're not alone. And I feel for you. And this is why, after helping many of my own clients for more than 35 years, since 2005, I've been a consumer advocate, getting on radio and TV and speaking to audiences. I let all my professional licenses automatically expire the last business day of 2005 to help people like you in language that I couldn't use if I had a license, or I would be out of compliance. I'm totally compliant with what you need to know. But folks, this is about you. This isn't about me or my profession, because empowerment is the key. And that's why I love to educationally empower people to take ownership of their own brighter future. So I'm Doug Andrew, and I have helped people optimize their financial assets, minimize unnecessary tax, and empower their true wealth for 4.5 decades. Folks, it's not just about the money, and if you watch a lot of my episodes, there are many things that constitute true or authentic wealth that has nothing to do with money. But when I help people optimize their financial assets, I don't want them worrying about their money during their golden years. To be able to predictably make themselves immune from three big dangers that I'm going to point out here. But the metaphor I like to use is the difference between a battery and a generator. See, I've noticed that most financial advisors, and I've trained over 3,000 of the nation's top CPAs and tax attorneys, they seem to want to charge up a retirement battery that hopefully won't go dead before you do. Well, folks, there are three dangers that cause this battery to short out before people pass away. I love to empower people like you with a generator that will generate income predictably into perpetuity, and also to those you leave behind for generations. That's why it's called a generator. And so if you would like to generate wealth into perpetuity and be immune to the things that short out most people's retirement batteries, stay with me here, because I'm going to show you the dangers, and I'm going to share with you also the opportunities that you need to seize in order to eliminate those dangers, like we've done for thousands of people just like you. So I love to use acronyms. In fact, my favorite vehicle is called the LASER Fund. LASER is an acronym that stands for Liquid Assets Safely Earning Returns. Well, I have an acronym that spells time. And so I think the biggest dangers that erode away people's purchasing power in retirement and what they can live on are taxes, inflation, market volatility, and I also put down economic uncertainty, and it spells the acronym TIME. And time can really hurt us when we do not take proactive measures to eliminate those dangers. So let's go through them one by one. This is the biggest danger: rising taxes, because most people will agree with me, because of irresponsible government spending and the printing of money, that we're going to have taxes continue to go up. And this usually takes 25%, 33%, as much as 40% of a retiree's cash flow or net spendable income. Let's say you have $1 million nest egg. If you were fortunate to be earning 10%, now most people, they only pull out 4%. That's the 4% rule in the financial services industry. Well, that means you only pull out $40,000 out of $1 million nest egg. You do that out of an IRA or 401k, and you pay 25% in tax. The $40,000 is really only netting you $30,000. And then usually most money managers charge 1% management fees. What's 1% of $1 million? $10,000. Wait a minute. You're pulling out $40,000, $10,000 goes out in tax, another $10,000 goes out in fees. You're netting 2%, $20,000. What I do for my clients, and this can be done for you, I like to earn 8, 9, or 10%. I pull out $80,000 and it's tax-free. How much more is $80,000? than $20,000. It's 4 times, it's 400% more income. Now, folks, if this sounds too good to be true, it is true. Sometimes people say, oh, that sounds too good to be true, so I'm just going to ignore it. I say, what? A lot of things in my life sounded too good to be true, and they actually ended up being true. This works, and we've done it for thousands of people. But you want to convert your retirement income into something that's going to be tax-free, not just tax-deferred. That erodes away at least 25 to 30% of a person's income, and many people, like in California, 40%. They pull out $100,000, and they pay $40,000 in tax and only netting $60,000. Frankly, most people are not earning enough to be able to pull out that much money. The second danger is inflation. Now, when the government spends money and they print money to cover that, that causes inflation. When has the printing of money to cover a federal deficit in any country in the world, in the history of the world, ever turned out good? You show me one time. It never turns out good. And that's what's been happening in this country. So when you have inflation, it erodes away the purchasing power. Now, the way to calculate inflation with the rule of 72, which I explained in another episode, let's say inflation is 5%. You divide 5% inflation into the number 72, and that will tell you the cost of living will double about every 15 years. Well, inflation, true inflation, is probably more like 7 to 10%. Certain goods and services go down, but you take medical costs and healthcare costs, it goes through the roof. Education, private education, it's unbelievable. And so if you in 7 years or 10 years want to buy the same gallons of gas and loaves of bread that you bought 7 or 10 years earlier, and you were getting by on $50,000, you're going to now have to withdraw $100,000 in order to buy the same gallons of gas, haircuts, loaves of bread that $50,000 bought earlier. And so the cost of living will double every 7, 10 years. That means the purchasing power of your dollar is cut in half. Do you want to cut your lifestyle every 7 to 10 years in half? Most people don't. This is easier to solve than most people think, as I'm going to show you. But that is the second biggest danger. The third is market uncertainty. Because we have our money out there in the market and we don't know, people try to time, and we have the volatility, and we put our money in the market. That's the worst place to have your money when you retire, because I've seen people in 2008 that lost 40% for the second time in the decade from 2000 to 2010. The first time it happened was 2001 to 2003 after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. People felt like they lost their future. They had to put off retirement 7 years just to get back to break even. They finally, in 2007, thought, okay, I'm back to break even after 7 years. And in one single year, 2008, they lost 40% again. It took until 2012 just to get back what they lost. Do you know people following the strategies I teach in my various books? They tripled their money in that 12-year period. The millionaires were 3 million. Whereas most Americans, their million was just barely back to break even, because I eliminated this danger of market uncertainty. I'm going to share with you the 3 strategies or opportunities that you want to seize to eliminate those dangers. Make yourself immune, because we do this for all kinds of people, no matter how much money they have in this country. And they are very grateful. They don't have to worry about these dangers of taxes, inflation, and market volatility during their golden years. So how do we eliminate those 3 dangers? How can you make yourself immune from them? Let's take taxes. It's easier than you think. The way to make yourself immune from taxes going up to 40%, 50%, 60%, it doesn't matter what the government comes up with to tax us. I'm immune from that because I reposition my money into tax-free vehicles. My favorite one is the laser fund. I have about 60% of my retirement resources in the laser fund. If I could, I'd put 100% of it, but you can't. But when you have a financial instrument that allows you to earn average rates of return of 7, 8, 9, 10%, some years you'll make far more than that. Other years you may not make much of anything, but you don't lose. And we teach this in our various episodes. But if you could average 8 or 9% or 10% and it's tax-free, It doesn't matter what tax rates go to. You're immune from taxes eroding away your purchasing power. Does that make sense? Let's take the second one, inflation. Now, I don't like inflation any more than you do, but inflation doesn't hurt me. It actually helps me, because what I love to set up is what I call a private retirement plan. And this is not an IRA or 401k. It is what I call a laser fund, and I don't have all those strings attached. I can fund it with 100 or 200 or 300,000. You can't do that in a Roth or a traditional IRA or 401k. But see, I link my returns I'm earning to the things that inflate. Now, I say that, and some financial advisors get this glazed look on their eye like, whoa, how do you do that? Because their broker-dealers don't teach them that. Because they make their money by churning people's money in the market, and that's subject to market volatility, which is the third danger. Let's say inflation goes to 10. I don't worry, because I've always earned about 5.5% or greater than the inflation rate at any time. When inflation's 10, I earn 15. When inflation's 15, I earn 20. If inflation were to go to 25, I'd earn 30 or more, because I link my returns to the things that inflate. The things that are going up in value is what I am linked to. Now, when I say link, my money is not actually invested in the market. My returns that are paid to me by the financial institution tax-free are linked to, if the market goes up, I benefit. But if the market crashes, I don't lose, because my money is not in the market. It's linked to the market. And so by having a private retirement plan, it solves the third danger, because I'm immune from market volatility. When the market goes up, I win. But when the market loses, I don't lose, because my money is safe in the insurance institution, earning 4 or 5% rate of return. But when the market goes up, they have to pay me whatever I linked it to, the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, the Russell 2000, without my money being in those, because the Dow Jones, the S&P 500 is simply a measuring tape. I'm linking it. That is what they must pay me. And if you're going, how do they do that? They do it because they are very savvy, but I do not risk my money in the market. You'll learn if you study some of the stories in my books, like the Laser Fund. You're going to see in 2008, many of our clients were cheering. Everybody else is panicking. Our clients are going, go, go, because they're not losing. And the first 90 days of 2009, many of our clients who used our strategies, they locked in gains of 16% tax-free after not losing a dime. Everybody else in America had to wait about 4 years until 2012 to make back the 40% that they lost in 2008. Don't do that. So the essence of this is to eliminate the dangers of taxes, inflation, and market volatility by seizing the opportunity to transfer your serious cash to tax-free vehicles. Link your returns to the things that inflate, so inflation doesn't hurt or hinder you, it helps you. And 3, make yourself immune from market volatility. You don't lose when the market goes down. You only make money when it goes up, but when it goes down, you may not make much that year, but you won't lose. And as Will Rogers once said, people get more concerned about the return of their money when things are bad, instead of the return on their money. If this is resonating with you, arousing your curiosity, I would recommend you watch this episode to answer the question, is money in a traditional IRA or 401k or a Roth the best way to save? Absolutely not. I think the Laser Fund, eliminating those dangers and creating a generator instead of a battery that's going to short out with taxes, inflation, and market volatility. You don't need to do that. Watch this episode and then take advantage of getting a free copy of my book, The Laser Fund, if you want to dive deeper.